Kaba. Welcome to Ka-lumni Talks, a brand new podcast series where I invite Kaba alumni to talk one-on-one on various topics pertaining to college, careers, postgrad, etc. They also answer various Q&A that you, the audience, can directly send to them. My goal for this series is to extend our reach to Kaba alumni outside of the Irvine area. These alumni are willing to offer themselves as a valuable resource and help current undergraduate students like us in any way they can. I hope you're all able to take away and learn something new from this episode. The topic for this episode is navigating postgrad. And with that, let's dive into the interview.
Yeah. For the Kaba Alumni folks and alumni who may be watching, I formerly went for my Kaba Alumni people as DJ Borja. Now I'm married and also a growing professional, so I have to go by my legal name, Danielle Lynk. Just to introduce myself, I am currently the communications manager for LEAP, Leadership Education for Asian Pacifics, which is an organization, nonprofit that's based out of LA, but I work remotely and live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I ended up here because right after UC Irvine, I actually joined Teach for America, and I taught in the classroom here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 3rd through 5th grade mathematics for 4 years, and then moved up to 7th grade mathematics because I thought, babies were babies. And I was like, let me go ahead and teach a little bit older kids. Let me get a little spicy level. And my goodness, you will understand that preteens, not the business, not the easiest business I've learned. So I taught 7th grade mathematics for about 2 years. And essentially when COVID had hit, that's when I realized I had to transition my role, because one of the major things, the reason why I became a teacher was really that relationship piece, the relationships that I had with my students and their families. And it felt different with COVID. Like it was relationships, but it was like stressful relationships, like understanding, like, what do you need? Are you sick? Like, how can we help? And it was very draining on that part. And it just didn't feel good teaching math on a computer. Like, I don't know how it is in college when you guys were, COVID times, or it just was not fun. I felt like I was like the worst teacher to be like, follow my notes. It just wasn't great. So then I transitioned into marketing and development, which essentially is a fundraising for the school, where I essentially got to, tell all these great people why they should donate to a charter school. That way we can continue supporting programs. Did that for about 2 years. Went on maternity leave and saw this great opportunity to join LEAP. And that's how I ended up here. I'm a proud mom of 2 boys. One is 5, and I have one that's a 3-month-old, about to be 4 months. So if you see him on this show, it's because he woke up from his nap. You might be lucky, you might not. Hopefully,
a guest feature.
Yeah,
a surprise guest.
Yeah, you never know. So he's still that little, and what else? I enjoy making cookies. I love actually being in the Midwest. So I'm a huge Milwaukee Bucks fan. Go Giannis. Like, I know that we got like LA fans, but Giannis is totally like a beast. Yes, like LeBron, but still, like, Giannis is on the way there. It's like I can talk about Giannis, and we're just gonna, go head to head for that.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you're ever in the Midwest, feel free to visit Milwaukee. We have cheese curds and we have delicious custard. That's always what I like to brag about.
Yeah, the thing about Wisconsin, actually, one of my old roommates in the dorms, Wisconsin was one of her like top choices like to move to for grad school. And like I always wonder like what the cheese is like there, just because like you guys are known for it.
No, it is definitely different. I did not realize there was a whole art and flavor and varieties of cheese and the way you can eat cheese. So
really, the way you can eat cheese.
I mean, I just felt like I'm a grown-up that has my own Lunchable all the time. Like that's how I was eating for a while during my teaching days. I was like, just different varieties of cheese and crackers. Like I'm having my fancy, charcuterie Lunchable all the time.
All right, so like I noticed like coming from UC Irvine, like going to the Midwest is such a huge shift. And I know that previously when you attended UCI, you were pretty involved in Kaba. And so this sort of just ties into like my first question. How do you feel that Kaba has helped you in terms of navigating like life after college? Especially with such a huge shift you experience, and especially like going through the pandemic. Some examples could be like connections you made, experiences gained that you normally wouldn't have gotten from your classes.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit more background about me. I'm originally from the Bay Area where I grew up. It was a Filipino centric town, Daly City. What?
Oh,
You
Daily
know,
City. Okay.
but I honestly felt as like being in Daly City, I was like, man, this is not the way to be successful. I don't see APIs or Filipinos that are successful. And the only way to be successful was to self-sabotage and be white. Like I said, I have to be white. So I went to an elite, like, private school, high school setting where I felt like I never really fit in. I was like trying to like, I'm going to like assume these white identities, do these white practices and, whatever it is to be successful. And I got into UC Irvine where it was complete flop. I was like, holy smokes, there's even more Filipinos now. Like, who am I? Like, what is this? And I initially will love to say that my first Kaba meeting, that first gen meeting, I absolutely hated it. I said, this club is not for me. I hate this club. I was like, it was too wild. It was too much. But of course, you're going to run into so many Filipinos in Irvine, right? You just run into them and they start convincing you. They start talking to you about, hey, like, do you want to join pack in? Do you want to like, join us for lunch? Like, it's like simple things. I was like, like, yeah, like I don't really like get connected well yet. And I want to have more of a community. And it seems like, you guys are really nice. You're cool. So it kind of like jump started me into being really involved in Irvine, is because there were so many people that were tied into everything. Like when I say tied into everything, like there was one person in student council, there's one person at the career center, there's one person that's like, yeah, I got a job there. You want to visit me at, was it Brandywine still? Like, is that still a thing? Like, I mean, it was just the fact that everyone in Kaba was like everywhere. And I was like, wow, I'm still understanding this school. And the reason why I bring up that story is because in terms of like leaving afterwards, if anything, I had left feeling this self-confidence of knowing my place and what I contributed for my own self to my own community. Because I became then one of those people, those resources where I was really involved. I was like, just like the people I saw before me that were welcoming, I did the same. I was like, I'm going to be at the career center. I'm going to be at the City Abroad Center. Let me connect everybody. And that's essentially kind of the spirit I kind of left with, that I left UC Irvine knowing I can start fresh. I can start somewhere new and build this community, this relationship, and be able to connect and have more people also enjoy the experience as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I'm seeing that myself now with Cabo. Like a lot of people are everywhere. Even like my job on campus, like I work for UCI Housing. I found it through someone in Cabo. Like the connections you make are definitely like invaluable. And it's crazy to see like how this org has started from just like only a few members up to now. Like you definitely do see people in Cabo everywhere, and it's amazing like how that those sort of like skills and like that inspiration you get from making those connections can sort of transfer over into life beyond college. But thank you for your answer, Danielle. So moving on into the next question, what was the most difficult thing about navigating postgrad that you wish you knew before going into it? What's some advice you have for those that are graduating very soon?
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me after postgrad was like honestly realizing that now I have to figure out the setting on my own too. Like I'm not going to have the 100 plus members show up to whatever I ask them to, or like have my back to an event. It's like, no, like you are going to graduate, and yes, you may have your close 10, 20 friends that you're going to see, but that number starts dwindling down really fast. And for me, it was dramatically fast because I decided to move to the Midwest. So I became on my own. And it wasn't like on my own where I couldn't talk to anybody, but it's realizing that you have the skill sets and realizing you have a passion, and whatever that is, you are now set to drive that yourself. Like no longer are your friends going to come with you. No longer are your friends going to say, hey, yeah, this professor, this don't do this in this class. I'll share you some of my notes. Like it's nothing like that. You got to find your own footing and be authentic to yourself. And I think that was a challenging part for me, because I think a lot of the things that I had said, especially like growing up as Filipino, it's like, oh, I had all these plans. I had like this checklist of stuff. Like I told my parents I'm going to graduate and get the good grades, and I did that. Now what's next? What's next? And then advice. This is going to be the practical advice. I would say definitely try to pay off those student loans or get forgiveness right away. I'm going to say that because nobody talks about finances. That's a real truth. So I'm going to say financially set yourself up for success. And think about Monopoly. Buy property once you can. Buy it because it is the greatest investment that you're going to have. And this is also a reason why I moved out to the Midwest, because I knew in my head, as a teacher, I can afford property here. And not only that, it increases a lot faster than you putting money in the bank. Okay, so buy property. Then once you are ready, go ahead and sell that baby. Go wherever you want. So make that money work for you.
I will definitely keep that in mind. Oh my
Yeah, I've
goodness.
never heard that advice before.
Yeah. No, yeah. Generally,
About
like, people don't talk about finances a lot. Usually it's just like it's focused on the job search and stuff, but like definitely like financial stuff and like security is very important afterward.
Yeah. I mean, I'm being transparent. I'm really bad with finances. Like I have a bad credit score, but I had learned my lesson the hard way. Like if anything, that was something also navigating post-grad where I was like, holy smokes, like what is all this loans and paperwork and I have to pay all this stuff. Now I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, you got to get your finances in order. You just got to.
I know you mentioned you said you were bad with like finances, but what do you feel like has sort of helped you? Or like how did you like tackle that like head on?
Oh, sad to say, but you do a lot of like personal cutting of like your own personal, like, oh, I can't have boba every time. You know? Like you got to make those personal cuts and you're like, ooh, I can't go to that really nice gym that, you know, I'm so used to from UC Irvine. We were spoiled at UC Irvine. Like their gym is nice. So in my mind, oh, I thought I can, you know, go to real life and have a really nice gym pass. No, drop down, go back to Planet Fitness because you need to cut some things, you know, like you just got to like realize what are the things that you're really set for life? Like what are your priorities at this time and how you're going to make it? Because yeah, that is something that I had to learn the hard way. I was realizing I was going down the drain. Like my money was not making it work. I was just paying bill after bill after bill and I wasn't saving for anything. And now that I'm in my 30s, I have 2 kids. It's just not reasonable. And if I want to move back to California, I need my money to work. I need it to work while I'm saving money here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do realize we are very privileged just because we have like the free gym membership and whatnot too. And it can be hard cutting things. Like it's always tempting to buy those concert tickets that you want to go to, like, you know, like short-term experiences and stuff. But I guess it's also important to think about sort of the long term for things. But yeah, sort of going back onto the theme of like navigating postgrad for you. This is just more of like your personal insight into things. Could you describe your transition into life after college? Like, what were some emotions you felt, and like how did you adapt to that change?
I think about when I first moved, I was in like this disbelief that I had moved across the country, well, not literally across, like midway of the country, I guess. And I just felt like it was almost like, oh, I'm on a short-term, long-term vacation. Like I'm going to be back, guys. You know, I kept close relationships with a lot of people from Kaba. Actually, one of my bridesmaids is actually from Kaba. So, you know, we have close, and they had some Kaba members actually come to my wedding. So, I mean, again, it's like you still keep those relationships, but in my mind, when I first moved, I was like, it's just short term. It's going to be only a year. It's going to be 2 years. And I kept telling that to myself, and I ended up being here for 9 years now. Like, goodness, time goes by fast. And if I think about more of that emotion piece, so sorry, I'll go on a tangent. There were moments where there were highs and there were moments that were lows. And on my lowest of lows, I did reach out to people that I knew I had that connection with. And I'm glad that I made those relationships that I had, because I don't know if I would have been able to do that on my own where I'm at here. Like I have no family here. So I have my family in California. I have my friends that were, you know, that are still in California, but it's nerve-wracking, but it was also good for my own self-growth. And then for context too, so I studied abroad my junior year to South Korea, and I was on my own. There was no like, you know, anyone from Kaba or anyone that I knew from UC Irvine that went with me. And I always think about those 2 experiences, or like that experience to like what I'm doing now, is that I grew a lot because I put myself in a situation that I was unfamiliar with. So despite me feeling sad, despite me feeling like, dang, this is hard, or dang, like I had to cut boba today because, you know, I want to save some money, you know, this sucks and I can't tell somebody else about it, or dang, I can't find like that Asian ingredient for a reasonable price. Like all those like sentiments, like I had to realize like I'm growing in this community. I'm growing to be my own individual and I'm putting my own footing here. And the work that you put into it, later on actually like turns out to be pretty good. So I can't complain. Like I'm happy where I'm at, and I'm really proud of how far I've grown. And that's what's at the end of the road, is that despite all the struggles, you're only moving up from there.
That's true. Thank you for your answer, Danielle. It's definitely difficult, especially like as a college student, you get sort of just used to this structure and whatnot. That kind of ties into a bit of a follow-up question I have. Like what is something that you miss from college that isn't the same or that you can't have like after graduating? Because I know that like the structure we have in college is very different to when you're out there, you know?
Oh, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just like me being like so much far removed from college now, but I think there was just so much, it was structured, but there was so much freedom too at the same time. Like bills don't tie you down. You could stay up late and, you know, hang out with other friends like amongst past the hours. They don't have a job. I mean, yes, you guys have student jobs, but it's very different when it's like a 9 to 5 structured job where people are like, I got deadlines and I have commitments. So you can still hang out. And I think all those memories and all those joyous like moments that are sporadic are the things that I miss the most. Like going to KBBQ, like why not? I remember going to like board meetings and we'd be like, all right, meeting ended at like 8. Let's go to KBBQ. Like, all right, we'll wait for a whole hour and then eat at like midnight. Like, why not? And in my mind now, as a grown adult, I'm like, I am not going to eat at midnight. Like, that's just a heartburn, like waiting to like when I go to bed. But when you're young, enjoy those moments, enjoy those things, because you're not going to have that opportunity ever again. And that's the same thing I say about study abroad. So if you there's freshmen out there listening, take advantage of studying abroad, because you're not going to have that much freedom, that opportunity to be like, all right, what's a whole year living in another country? You know, go for it. Take advantage of all those opportunities, and just like take the, you know, whatever fear, whatever, you know, things that you're just like, that's not me. Let it go. Just try it. Try it now. Can't say you don't know if you don't like it unless you try it. That's why I tell my 5-year-old.
That's true. That's true. No, that's me when I approach eating, because I didn't want to be a picky eater, and whenever I like come across new food, I'm like, doesn't hurt to try it. And definitely with like spontaneous things too. I feel like being a college student and hanging out with people, I'm always like 99% of the time down when it's just a spontaneous idea. Like after board meeting, like, oh, let's go to Seaside, and we end super late, and like it's a Monday, you know, the next day, and we're there till like midnight and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Seaside, one of my bucket list items when I was my last month, because I already knew I was moving to Milwaukee and I said there's no beach. I spent my last month in California going to Seaside every single night, because that's like the best time to go, right? Like parking it
Yeah.
every single night my senior year of like that last month. I said, I got to go to Seaside. I got to step on the beach, like whatever it is. So it'd be like, we're tired, whatever. I was like, nope, we're going. It's 2 a.m. It's midnight, it's whatever time. So that's something I definitely did, and I enjoyed it.
Oh, that's such a good way to like end things off. Like, did you get like a different order every day, or did you always get like you have a go-to order, or
I
like
did
did you
have
try the whole menu?
no, I did not try the whole menu. I did have a go-to order, Thai tea with my ham and cheese. Is it croissant, ham and
Yeah.
cheese?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could not.
Yep. That was my go-to always.
Oh my gosh, I miss it already. I just had Seaside like last night too.
You were there last night?
Yeah, we were all there last night. It's funny thing that yeah, Kaba meeting like ended at 9. Everyone went to Seaside for an after event, a long line. It was like a Disney line. Like people waited like for an hour for
Yep.
donuts, and everyone was there till midnight. Next day, Friday morning classes. So yeah, definitely like all the spontaneous moments, like definitely something we got to cherish while we're still here in college. All right, so we're going to be moving on into sort of the open Q&A section. These are questions that were sent in by current undergraduates in Kaba. And so let me pull it up right here. Some of them prompted to be anonymous, some of them decided not to be anonymous. And so the first question I'm going to ask, it sort of ties into our previous question about transitioning into life after college. This was actually asked by my intern Joey Segismundo. And he asks, what's it like at first to not have the structure of school anymore? I feel like school is great in the sense of your day is somewhat structured for you, and how do you manage the transition of structuring your life during postgrad?
Joey, that's such a funny question because right after postgrad, I actually worked at a school. So I actually had structure. Like
Wow.
ironically, I had to make structure because my work was around structure. Like I had the similar schedule of like, with school life. I knew when summer break was, I knew when spring break was. So for anyone who's like, hey, I want like the same structure, go into teaching. We need teachers. So think about that if you miss structure, because you're gonna get it there.
That's true. That's true.
But jokes aside though, in terms of like creating an actual structure for like day-to-day stuff other than like work life, I think about just like the simple things that like matter to you. So I think about every morning, like my structure is drink a cup of water, brush your teeth, right? Like think of like all the things that you find most important to like Maslow's needs of like, in order to survive, I need to do this. And then at the end of the day, what do I need for my mental capacity? Like I have to read a book at night versus me watching, something scrolling on social media. That was a habit I had to break, but mentally that made me feel a lot better. So in terms of making your structure, Joey, I would say, think about that, balance it with work. And my one advice too is don't make work your center of your life either. It's a balance. So don't feel that, because I have this deadline or because I work so hard for this, I should spend 80% of my energy on it. Work should not feel like, a heart, like it should not pull you from life. If it does, that means you're in the wrong work. That's my opinion. And that's why I've always stayed in nonprofits and stayed in that kind of space, because work should not feel like work. It should feel something that you enjoy.
Definitely. Okay. Thank you. Wow. I'll remember that.
Thank you for your answer, Danielle. So moving on to our next question, asked by Anonymous. Did you decide to pursue a master's in education right after undergrad? How/why did you decide to pursue the field of education at first? And later on, how did you make the decision to switch jobs?
Yeah. So in terms of making that decision to education, I think in my mind growing up, I always wanted to be a teacher. And similar to most Filipino narratives, if you told your parents you wanted to be a teacher, they would have been like, that's so disappointing. That was the narrative I was told. So I went to UC Irvine and I was like, dang, like, okay, I can't teach because I told my parents I wasn't going to do that. I, went to school for international studies and snuck into, volunteer teaching in South Korea. And I was like, man, I do love teaching. I do love it. So fast track for me to get into education was to join Teach for America. And I actually think I was more inspired to join Teach for America when I saw other Kaba leaders doing it as well. There were Kaba board presidents that had joined Teach for America. And I said, wow, like, because they did it, I know that's possible. I can do it too. So I kind of followed that track, and that's where the master's degree is required. At least, not sure what it is now post-pandemic, but at least pre-pandemic certain states did require you to have a master's degree in order for you to teach elementary schools. But with post-pandemic, I know that the requirements have dropped because unfortunately teachers are, just like any job as well, but there is a scarcity of those wanting to teach in education. And if we don't have teachers, our future is unfortunately in really scary hands. I can just say that. But I only left the classroom. I feel guilty that I left the classroom because I know how it was needed and I love teaching, but it just wasn't the right fit anymore. Similar to what I said, it took more than 80% of my time stressing out about how I was going to deliver, what, relationships I needed to fix, how is that kid going to pass? It was stressing me out to the point where I was like, this is not healthy for my sanity. And that's where I knew I needed to make that switch, in addition to like with the pandemic hitting. So when that kind of tied in together, I was like, this is not it for me. And luckily, I think the skill sets that I actually even learned from like being a Kaba intern to being on the Kaba board, I learned some like, marketing strategies there. And, I winged it. I faked it till I make it. Like you learn from teaching and learn the skills that I needed and kind of went from there.
All right. Thank you so much for your answer, Danielle. Moving on to the next question, also from Anonymous. We have quite a few. How would you describe your relationship with your parents with regards to your academic and career pursuits?
Yeah. Oh, I kind of touched on this, but initially I was doing everything in my power for them to, get approval, because I just felt, to be honest, that they work so hard. Me growing up, I saw them struggle, that the only way they can see appreciation was me being successful in school. So I did everything in my power to be like, honor student, I'm getting the top school, I am going to do these things, I'm going to go to this degree. So I think part of that relationship was healthy, but also unhealthy now that I've kind of had my own family navigate, because I think what I've learned is that we didn't talk about how I felt. We didn't talk about the feelings that was bothering me. Instead, I was just trying to please them. And I didn't understand as a kid, like, why should I please my parents? That's like me as a parent now, like, I don't need my child to please me. Like, that's not the purpose of like their life. They should be, if anything, seeking what they want to do. And I get it, because I think my parents, again, they're immigrants. So they're just like, we sacrificed a lot. We want to make sure you have the best opportunity. But I know as in their hearts, like as a parent, that's not actually what they feel. And I wish we just talked about what they actually felt. And my relationship now with my parents, now that they're grandparents, I think that's where we're at now, where we get to talk about our feelings of like, how did we really feel at that moment? But it's hard because my parents are uncomfortable. They're not going to talk about their feelings right away. We'll have to have like, dinners and breakfast and lunch, and then they'll finally talk. Like, it takes a while for them to open up. And it doesn't help that I'm also distant. Like I said, I'm in the Midwest, and they live in California still. But there comes a point where it's no longer am I, going to continue to do what they say. I have to, again, find my own footing, and they're going to love me unconditionally. That's what I always remember, that no matter what you decide to do, if it's, deciding to become a teacher, and like, I was seen as a rebel, like I moved to the Midwest, so far away, unconditionally, they're still going to love you. They just wanted to make sure you are okay. Are you okay? Are you safe? Are you happy? And that's what matters.
Yeah, I think the same can be said for like my parents and my own personal experience. Like they always check on me, and I know they worry, especially like how I'm doing in school and whatnot, and like what it means for my future, because securing my future is like, and making sure I'm okay is like one of their like, one of their top worries. And so oh my God, I'm so sorry, I like blanked out for a second. But what I was gonna say about that is within like Filipino culture, it can be hard to talk about your feelings and your emotions. And I know that like, especially with older generations, I know with me personally, like it was always difficult to open up to my parents at first. And it's something that's actually like widely discussed within Kaba. And so I feel like going on into like these new generations and stuff, like our generation and whatnot, I feel like I feel like we're starting to see a sort of shift in how mental health and emotions are talked about, because it's important to talk about how you feel. And even like my parents now, like we are better at like talking to each other and being honest and open. So I'm really interested to see like where that goes within the next 10 years or so. But yeah, moving on into sort of the next question, also by Anonymous. International studies has always been a major I hear about, but it's one of those that I never just like learned about, or that I just never learned what you do / what kind of career you can get from it. How'd you hear / learn about it yourself? And how can you recommend other people to look into majors besides the common ones Filipino parents always push for?
Yeah. So my route was really interesting because I think when I was my first year, I came in as undecided, actually. And I was trying to do the traditional route. I was going to be a lawyer or something like that. I think, it was the courses I was trying to take. And what ended up happening was that I was trying to look for, to be honest, like I was trying to survive. I was like, okay, what's something that I'm interested in? And what's also something that can also get me, again, this is me being opportunistic, is going to get me abroad, and I was like, this is off of my priority list because I know I can only do this once. So I said, perfect. International studies literally aligns that I can be there for a year abroad. Like, cool. So that's kind of how I went into that major, was because I knew that was my incentive, if that makes sense. In terms of like, what can you do with it? There's actually a lot of opportunities with international studies majors. It's one of those, like, it's actually just like a general course, but with a focus on a certain area of like your interest. So for me, I chose East Asian studies in particular. So I focused on Korea, Japan, and China relationships and business, because I thought that was really interesting. I was like, I want to see what the dynamic is. But it didn't mean that like I couldn't take, a PhilLam course. I still took PhilLam courses because, hey, why not, right? Like it's all within Asia and I still got credit for it, which was really cool. But I also got to study abroad in South Korea because I was like, hey, like K-pop was cool then. I like KBBQ. Let me like go for it. So I don't know. I think I was being a rebel at the time too, of like, what can I do? That's something that's on my bucket list in college. But also was general enough that I said, I can actually apply these skills in different things. So as a professional now, I do actually see a lot of like international studies as like kind of like an ends all means all. It's almost like what's that called? Communications major. Like people are like, oh, communications means nothing. It's like one of those like broad majors that you can apply to anything that you'd want because you just learned how to be great at analyzing things. You are great at reading. You're great at making predictions of what's going to happen from like business side to historical side to sociological sides. So it's not so much like skill sets where I can be like, all right, I can build something, but I'm pretty analytical and I can write. So yeah.
And so question from the same person, sort of tying into your major and whatnot. How would you say that your major personally prepared you for all the work that you've done so far?
Ooh, not. I'm gonna be so real and like your major does not define your career, at least for my path. I understand if it's like medicine and engineering, yes, you should, obviously get the skill sets that you need and the knowledge. But if you're kind of like, a person that's like, I want to like work in, corporate or I want to work in nonprofit, I honestly don't see your major as a limitation to what you want to do. It's really, who do you know? And what skill sets and what things are you going to do to get there? Like if, for example, I went to teaching, I did not, major in teaching or like get any teaching advice. All I did was, okay, I'm eager to learn how to become a good teacher. That requires you to research, that requires you to present, that requires you to be on your feet and be energetic and happy at the same time. And sometimes you're a counselor, sometimes you're a parent. Like those are things you have to learn on your feet. And that is honestly like the whole game of this, college to career. It's really, what are you going to do really quickly in order to adapt? Like even the job that I have now, I'm a marketing and communications manager, or like it's called communications manager, which is marketing and self. And I did not go to school for marketing, but I'm a learner. Like I can continue learning these skill sets. I know how to Google, I know how to YouTube, I can connect with people, I can talk and learn. And that's what you need. You just need to be able to be open to those things. So don't close yourself off because you're like, oh, I am a business major, so I have to go to a, business side. It's like, no, go with whatever you're interested in and just pick out the skills and also your personality. Like, who are you? Are you a person that likes to work with people? Or are you a person that wants to be in a cubicle? Like, you got to figure that out. What kind of person are you?
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about that, how like sometimes often your major doesn't always match your career later on, because I've come across a lot of alumni who have a certain major in college, but they're doing something completely different now, and they're happy and they're successful. So it's definitely reassuring to hear that like you're not locked to just going one like straight path. I mean, for some other majors like engineering and whatnot, there's a bit of an exception because it's pretty like well paved, but for a major like international studies, like with how broad you can apply it, it's reassuring that you can still find a lot of opportunities out there. So thank you for your answer, Danielle. Moving on to another question, also by another anonymous. Anonymous is asking a lot of good questions today. Did you have any tenets or mottos while juggling both a Kaba board position as well as your academics on top of any other responsibilities you may have had?
Yeah. Man, sophomore year for me was like the overcommitment year, as I call it. I think I call it as my catch-up year because my freshman year, I wasn't involved with Kaba. I was only a Kaba intern. And then this was me sophomore year. I was like, wow, I really love Kaba, but I also really want to like be involved in something else. So I was a career center mentor, and I was also a Kaba board mentor, Kaba board member, and then I was involved with Packet. And then not only that, I was like also getting like more courses so that way I can be able to study abroad the following year. So I had to make sure I was all lined up. And in terms of like motto, my gosh, I would have just said, like, you only live once, as the old saying used to be. Like, that's literally how I pushed it. And I was exhausted. I was, happy though. I can definitely say it was worth it, but there were moments where I stressed out. And hey, you're gonna have a special guest coming soon because he just woke up from his nap. So let me just get him real quick.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Take your time.
Yes.
Say hello to the newest, youngest Kaba member right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, new world
Welcome.
record.
I
Welcome.
get a baby general member shirt.
Yeah. So his name is Raphael, or we can go call him by RJ.
Nice to meet you, RJ. All right. But yeah, what you said about how like your sophomore year was your catch-up year, Danielle, I'm actually like in the same exact position as you right now because I'm a second year. I was an intern, like I wasn't that involved in Kaba last year. Actually, like I didn't get involved until like more packing and then I became an intern. But this year, like I'm definitely trying a lot of new things with board. I work on campus. My major's getting pretty difficult and there's so many things I want to get involved in. And yeah, it's stressful, it's exhausting, but I'm having fun. And it's definitely very rewarding. So it's nice to hear that you're also like once in the same boat. But yeah, moving on into my next question. This is from Anonymous. What was applying to jobs like for you? How did you decide what pathway you wanted to commit to postgrad? So more of a general question.
Yeah. So Teach for America is a little different because I applied during my senior year, and I actually started literally the beginning of senior year. So I would say, it wasn't junior year. I would say literally as school started, I was like, all right, what am I going to do? So I started searching for jobs and opportunities then. And for Teach for America, the process started probably like October, November, from what I remember, the application process. So I had to like be committed to something right away. I'm sorry for this little one crying in this interview. Again, I was thinking about like what was my game plans, and I actually had a joke. I was like, all right, I have these 3 game plans. I was like, all right, first game plan, Teach for America. Second game plan, I'm going to work on campus to like, one of those like part-time jobs and figure it out. Third game plan, I'm going to work at Disneyland. I know some people in Kaba that work there. That was literally it. And I was like, started at my senior year, the beginning of the year, just trying to find, what was the next step. So I think, if I were to give any advice is, know what you're trying to seek after, like what opportunity or like job you're trying to find. If it's like maybe just interning your senior year, like do that. And then from there, build those relationships, build those connections, similar to what you're doing in Kaba now in college. Build those connections with people in the real world so you can get a job.
All right. Thank you, Danielle. That actually leads into my next question. This was sent in by Camelia Hines. She's actually your great-great-great-great-great-grand. She's a community co-chair. Actually, the name change. The name has been changed to Community and Political Affairs Chairs, so SIPA. And she asks, what's your advice for networking?
Ooh, be authentic to who you are, but also be a good listener. Be personable. Because in order for you to be net worthy, or just to have that relationship, you have to be able to like connect with somebody on a level where they're going to seek after you as well. It's a mutual exchange. You can't just be like, all right, this person is going to be a person that's going to offer me a job later, or this person's going to give me money later. You have to be like, what can I do for them at this moment? Like if it's like being an ear to them, being able to like, console them, or being able to like compliment them. Sometimes people just need to be complimented. To be honest, like 9 out of 10 times people are not complimented for the hard work that they do. And there's a lot of people working hard. So just listen, be authentic to yourself, and definitely, definitely like cherish the relationship like constantly. So one thing that I do, especially as a development work for fundraising, I like, listen to them, like, if they have children, if they have birthdays coming up, like I then give them a call, or they go, oh, how was, so-and-so's game that you went to? Like I really pick out those little details because they feel appreciative that they're recognized as a human being.
No, yeah, that is super important in networking. Being able to like authentically connect with one another, just because I feel like often people do get lost in sort of the end goal, like, oh, I can get a job through this, or they don't see a person anymore, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that is definitely good advice for networking. And Camelia's next question sort of just ties into that. Have you made any connections with non-students, so professors, advisors, etc., during college that you still benefit from today? And how do you keep up with these relationships?
It's actually really funny because it wasn't a moment where I was really close with a couple of professors on campus, especially in the education field. Because what ended up happening when I was teaching in the classroom, there was no Filipinos at all in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I would reach out to these professors and be like, "Do you have any resources? You have any like children's like novels or books or anything?" So in terms of like the relationship that I had with the teachers was really specific to like Phil Lam, at least for me. Like my Phil Lam studies teacher in UC Irvine was probably the closest relationship I had. And then next to that was, my Korean language teacher. So again, all in the Asian kind of realm where I felt most comfortable, where I felt most authentic or seen. Classes that I wasn't seen, I was just a number. I don't have any relationships with, but definitely the jobs or the supervisors that I worked with, I still connect with them, and I connected with them more today because of my work. So I work for leadership education for Asian Pacifics, and we target everyone from college age students all the way up to CEO professionals. And we provide leadership development, starting, again, like to anyone who may need it, just to build that community, that capacity where if they want to become a leader, they want to become the next level executive, that's what we do at LEAP.
All right. Thank you so much for your answer, Danielle. And so now we're approaching the end of the interview now, just because we have one last question left from Charlize Valdez. They asked, are you still often in touch with a lot of the friends you made in your college years? Are you still often in touch? Oh, yeah. That's pretty much the question.
Yeah.
I'll repeat it one more time. Wait, hold on. I'll repeat it one more time. Are you still often in touch with a lot of the friends you made in your college years? Yeah, that's the question.
Yes, I am. But I also recently just got married, and that was a good opportunity for me to reconnect with a couple of people. And with my job role now too, I get to go often to California. So I'm actually reaching out a lot of Cabo folks and being like, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. You want to meet up?" And the fun part about it is that despite the number of years, I like almost forget. It almost feels like just like yesterday that we just hang out. Like it doesn't. Time will never tarnish the relationship at all. So no matter where you go or how long it's been, the friends that you really make are your friends for those spontaneous times. You'll have more spontaneous times just as grown adults, and probably with priorities and deadlines of like, hey, I got to go to bed.
And I have a follow-up question myself. What were some of your most like cherished memories that you've made in college that you still think about to this day?
Yeah. I think about my sophomore year. I think it has to be either the late nights at the cultural center. When I say like late nights, it was like we would just be hanging out there, like meeting is done, and we would just be sitting on those couches. Like, I don't even know if we were talking about anything, but I don't know why. Like those memories stick out to me the most because it's where I felt most safe and most comfortable and most like it was a place like a home with like away from home for me, and I wasn't stressed there. So I always think about that. And then another memory would definitely be, when I studied abroad. Like I don't know how else to emphasize it, but if you don't have study abroad in your plans, and I'm sorry if you don't, because you're like, you have a timeline, I would say, man, go for that 5th year and just study abroad, because I cannot emphasize how valuable it is. Like, this is the time to do it.
All right. Thank you so much for your answer, Danielle. It's really nice to hear that like Kaba has like provided such a safe space for you at home away from home, and it's really nice to see that it continues to do that for a lot of our current channel members, even myself included. But yeah, this will conclude the interview. Thank you for taking time out of your day to meet with us. And yeah, that will conclude the first episode of Ka-lumni Talks.
Yay.
Thank you for watching.